Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to introduce you to someone who doesn't just speak wisdom, he lives it. Shi Heng Yi, a master from the Shaolin temple, doesn't shout his message, he whispers it into the hearts of those who are ready to change. In a world full of noise, stress, confusion, and rush, he teaches silence. In a world chasing more, he teaches letting go. While many search for success outside, he points us inward, where true mastery begins. Shi Heng Yi doesn't offer magic tricks or shortcuts. He offers discipline, awareness, and inner strength, and that changes everything. Don't wait for the storm to pass. Learn to be still in the storm. He shows us that real growth isn't loud. It's quiet. It's in your breath, your posture, your patience. It's in how you respond when life doesn't go your way. His wisdom will shift how you see your struggles. It will challenge your ego and calm your fears. And most importantly, it will awaken the warrior monk inside you. So if you're tired of feeling lost, if you want to find meaning, peace, and power in this modern chaos, listen to Shi Heng Yi, not with your ears, but with your mind, your heart, and your spirit, because once you truly understand what he teaches, you'll never think the same again. In today's fast, moving world, we're constantly being told that more movement means more progress, that hustle, noise, and non-stop action equals success. But Shi Heng Yi flips this idea upside down. He teaches that true power doesn't come from how fast you move, it comes from how still you can remain when everything around you is in chaos. Stillness isn't laziness. It's not doing nothing. It's doing the most important thing, mastering your inner world. In a storm, what survives isn't the leaf, but the rooted tree. Stillness is that deep root. When your mind is calm, decisions become clearer. Reactions become thoughtful. Energy is not wasted. You begin to respond instead of react, and that is where strength lives. We often try to fix external problems, fix our routines, fix people, fix circumstances, but forget to address the storm inside. Shi Heng Yi shows that inner silence is the foundation of all control. When you stop chasing everything outside you and instead sit with yourself, your thoughts, your breath, your awareness, you begin to build mental strength that no one can shake. Think of a monk sitting in meditation. From the outside, nothing seems to be happening, but inside there's a war being fought, and won. Every time the mind wanders and he brings it back, that's a rep. That's discipline, that's control, that's power. Most people run from discomfort, but stillness teaches you to sit in it, to breathe through it, to understand it. This isn't weakness. It's a higher level of strength most people never train for. When you master stillness, you gain something rare in this world, the ability to be unshakable, calm in stress, firm in pressure, grounded in chaos. Shi Heng Yi doesn't just preach this, he lives it. Whether in training or in silence, his presence is proof that you don't need to raise your voice to be powerful. You don't need to fight everything around you. You only need to know how to be still enough to hear your own truth, and strong enough to follow it. At first, the word discipline might sound heavy, like restriction, like rules, like chains. It brings to mind early mornings, strict routines, and saying no to comfort. But to Shi Heng Yi, discipline is not a prison. It is the exact opposite. Discipline is the key that unlocks real freedom. Most people misunderstand freedom. They think it means doing what you want, when you want, without limits. But this kind of freedom often leads to chaos. Without structure, the mind becomes cluttered. The body becomes lazy. Emotions take control. Time slips away. You become a slave to impulses, to moods, cravings, distractions, and fears. Shi Heng Yi teaches that without discipline, you are never truly in control of your life. You are simply reacting to whatever comes, and when you're reacting, you're not free. You're trapped in a cycle where external circumstances control your internal state. Discipline, however, gives you the ability to choose consciously, to rise before the sun and train your body, not because you have to, but because you are strong enough to do what most people won't, to sit in silence every morning, not because it's easy, but because you know that mastering your mind requires practice. To delay pleasure, to ignore distractions, to act with intention, not because it's forced, but because it leads to something higher. This is where true freedom begins, not in doing less, but in becoming more. More focused, more powerful, more aligned. When you live with discipline, you become free from the chaos of the world. You don't need to control everything around you, because you've learned to control yourself. You don't rely on motivation, you don't need perfect conditions, you've built systems inside your life and inside your mind that support who you want to become. Shi Heng Yi embodies this principle in every movement, every word, every breath. Whether performing a precise martial art form or walking in complete silence, there is a sense of intention. Every action rooted in training, every moment born from practice. And that's what makes it powerful. Because discipline doesn't make you less, it reveals your best. It sharpens your focus, strengthens your character, and teaches you the power of consistency. With discipline, you're no longer pulled by emotion or distraction. You're led by purpose, you're guided by clarity, you're driven by something deeper than comfort, commitment. Growth is often seen as an act of addition, learning more, doing more, achieving more. But Shi Heng Yi reveals a deeper truth. Sometimes, growth is not about adding more, but letting go of what no longer serves you. To grow mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, you have to release the weight that holds you back. The ego, the pride, the pain, the past, the fear, the need to always be right or always be in control. True progress doesn't happen when you're tightly holding on to your old identity. It happens when you're brave enough to shed it. We carry so much that slows us down, old beliefs that say we're not good enough, past failures that we replay over and over, grudges that poison our peace, attachments to outcomes we can't control. And in this clutter, there is no room for new energy, new ideas, or new growth. Shi Heng Yi teaches that letting go is not weakness, it is wisdom. It takes more strength to release than to cling. It takes humility to admit that not everything deserves to stay with us, and it takes courage to step into the unknown without the comfort of what used to be. Letting go also means surrendering the need for perfection. So many people never take the next step in life because they're afraid it won't be perfect. They hold on to doubt, overthinking, or the illusion of control. But growth only begins when you release the grip, when you trust the process and allow yourself to evolve without needing to know every answer in advance. This practice can be found in Shaolin wisdom. In martial arts, you must unlearn stiffness to learn flow. You must loosen your body and free your mind to react naturally. The same applies to life. Only by loosening your grip on control can you move with fluidity, adapt with grace, and connect with the deeper rhythm of the present moment. Shi Heng Yi often reminds us, you don't carry heavy stones up a mountain if you want to reach the top. You remove them one by one until only what is essential remains, and in that simplicity, in that lightness, you find your true strength. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting, it doesn't mean giving up. It means choosing freedom over fear, peace over pride, presence over attachment. It means trusting that who you're becoming is more important than who you've been. Before anything can change, before you can grow stronger, calmer, wiser, you must first become aware. Without awareness, you're walking in darkness, reacting blindly to life, not even realizing that you're stuck in patterns, habits, and thoughts that keep you from becoming who you truly are. Shi Heng Yi teaches that awareness is the foundation of all transformation. It is the moment you open your eyes, not just physically but internally. It is the ability to observe your life from a higher perspective and say, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I've been avoiding. Most people live in autopilot. They repeat the same actions, think the same thoughts, and feel the same emotions day after day without questioning them. They say they want to change, but they haven't even stopped to look at what's really going on inside. Without awareness, there is no clarity, and without clarity, there is no conscious choice. Shi Heng Yi reminds us that you cannot change what you're not aware of. You cannot release a toxic thought if you don't even know it's poisoning your mind. You cannot improve a habit if you're not aware of how deeply it's wired into your daily behavior. You cannot heal pain if you've never taken the time to sit with it, feel it, and understand where it comes from. Awareness is not passive. It is active observation. It is the practice of turning your attention inward, again and again, and learning to see without judgment, but with deep honesty. Whether you're meditating, walking, training, or speaking, the moment you pause and truly observe what's happening inside you, a door opens, a space is created, and in that space, something powerful can begin: choice. In the Shaolin tradition, training begins not with combat, but with stillness and observation. You must learn to observe your breath, your posture, your movements, your thoughts, because if you don't know yourself deeply, how can you master anything else? How can you face challenges, pressure, or adversity if you haven't even faced yourself? When you become aware, your entire relationship with life changes. You stop blaming the outside and start investigating the inside. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop rushing and start noticing the subtle patterns that have been driving you unconsciously. Awareness is the flashlight that shines into the dark corners of your mind. It's the mirror that reflects your truth, raw and unfiltered. It's the silence between actions where wisdom begins to speak. Most people view suffering as something to escape, something to numb, something to avoid at all costs. But Shi Heng Yi teaches a deeper truth, that suffering is not your enemy. In fact, it can be your greatest teacher if you're willing to listen. We live in a world that constantly tries to protect us from discomfort. We reach for distractions, comforts, entertainment, addictions, anything that can keep us from feeling pain. But the more we run from suffering, the more power it gains over us. Avoided pain doesn't disappear, it simply goes deeper, operating from the shadows of our subconscious. Shi Heng Yi shows that true growth happens when you stop running and start facing, because suffering, when faced with awareness and courage, becomes a mirror. It reveals your weaknesses. It exposes what you're still holding on to. It teaches you where you're not yet free. The pain of failure teaches you about expectation, attachment, and ego. The pain of loss teaches you about impermanence and presence. The pain of rejection teaches you about self, worth, and inner validation. Every form of suffering carries a lesson, but only if you're willing to lean into it, not with resistance, but with curiosity. In Shaolin practice, discomfort is not avoided. It is deliberately sought out through intense physical training, long hours of silence, mental stillness, and strict discipline, not because the monks enjoy pain, but because they know that beyond pain lies power. That when you put yourself in uncomfortable situations and you endure without breaking, you begin to uncover a part of yourself that most people never meet, the resilient, grounded, unshakable self. Suffering also humbles us. It strips away illusion. It makes us realize how fragile we are, and in that realization, we discover what truly matters. It pushes us inward, away from shallow distractions, and toward the depth of the human experience. Shi Heng Yi often reminds his students that you don't grow by avoiding what's hard. You grow by turning toward it, breathing through it, sitting with it, and allowing it to transform you from the inside out. You may not be able to control when suffering comes, but you can always choose how you meet it. You can choose to make it your teacher instead of your tormentor, because suffering, approached with awareness, reveals where you are still stuck. It shows you your limits, so you can break them. It shines light on your wounds, so you can begin to heal. And it tests your strength, so you can realize it's far greater than you imagined. In modern society, growth is often measured by external achievements. More money, more success, more status, more recognition. We're conditioned to chase things outside of ourselves, thinking that if we just reach the next level, the next milestone, the next goal, we will finally feel complete, powerful, or fulfilled. But Shi Heng Yi teaches a very different philosophy. Real growth starts on the inside. Before you can build anything meaningful in the world, whether it's a business, a relationship, a legacy, you must first build yourself. External success without inner strength is fragile. You can have everything, wealth, fame, opportunity, but if your mind is scattered, your emotions are unstable, or your spirit is empty, none of it will bring you peace. Inner chaos will always sabotage outer success. Growth, in the truest sense, is not about what you accumulate, but about what you awaken. It's about becoming conscious of your thoughts, patterns, and behaviors. It's about developing a solid internal foundation that doesn't crumble when life gets hard. Shi Heng Yi shows that you cannot fake real power. It's not about how loud you speak, how strong you look, or how impressive your resume is. It's in how calm you remain under pressure. It's in how you treat people when no one is watching. It's in how you handle failure, discomfort, and change. Just like a tree grows underground before it ever reaches upward, your growth begins in the unseen, in silence, discipline, meditation, and reflection. These are not glamorous, they don't earn applause, but they are what build your inner character, your emotional control, your patience, your vision. Inner growth is about asking yourself the hard questions. Who am I beneath the roles and masks? What do I believe and why? What habits are shaping me every day, whether I notice them or not? It requires humility to see your own blind spots. It requires courage to face your fears without turning away. And it requires discipline to keep working on yourself, even when there are no immediate results, no rewards, no one cheering you on. Shi Heng Yi reminds us that you don't need to travel far, read hundreds of books, or climb mountains to begin your transformation. You simply need to go inward, to look at yourself with honesty, to sit in silence long enough to hear what your soul is truly asking for. Because when the inner world is aligned, the outer world begins to shift naturally. You no longer chase things out of fear, insecurity, or ego. You begin to act from clarity, from peace, and from purpose. And that is where true, lasting growth begins, not in what you do, but in who you become. We often believe that life is shaped by what happens to us, the situations we face, the obstacles we encounter, the people we meet. But Shi Heng Yi teaches a far more empowering truth. It's not what happens to you that defines your life, but how you respond to it. Every day, we are faced with challenges, some small, some overwhelming. You can't control everything that enters your path. Loss, failure, betrayal, disappointment, unexpected changes. But you always have control over how you choose to respond. That choice is where your true power lies. Your response determines your growth. Your response reveals your mindset. Your response becomes the bridge between who you are and who you're becoming. Shi Heng Yi explains that there's a gap between stimulus and response, a moment of space where awareness lives. In that space, you can either react from your emotions or respond from your wisdom. Most people react. They lash out, shut down, blame others, or panic. But trained minds, disciplined minds, pause. They breathe, observe, and choose a response that aligns with strength and clarity. In the Shaolin tradition, Response is everything. When a martial artist is under attack, it's not brute force that matters. It's presence, precision, and timing. It's being grounded enough to make a calm decision under pressure. Likewise, in life, the calmest person in the room is often the most powerful. They are not easily shaken. They do not allow external chaos to create internal turmoil. They choose responses that come from depth, not fear. Your response also shapes your identity. When someone disrespects you, do you lose yourself in anger or respond with dignity? When life gets hard, do you give up or rise with discipline? When you face failure, do you label yourself as defeated or use it as fuel to grow? The quality of your response reflects the quality of your inner training. If your inner world is reactive, your outer world will constantly feel out of control. But when your inner world is still, conscious, and disciplined, your responses become powerful, even in the most difficult situations. Shi Heng Yi reminds us that our external reality is often a reflection of our internal state. We cannot always choose what life gives us, but we can always choose what we give back to life. And that choice over and over again is what builds character. It's what forges resilience. It's what creates peace in chaos and purpose in uncertainty. Because ultimately, your response is not just a reaction to the world. It is a message to yourself, a declaration of who you are, and a foundation for who you are becoming. So now you know, the path to transformation doesn't begin with the outside world. It begins with the inner self. In a noisy world, stillness becomes power. In a world that runs from difficulty, discipline becomes freedom. Where others hold on tightly, you learn to let go to grow. Where most leave unaware, you awaken through awareness. When pain arrives, you don't run, you learn. Instead of chasing surface success, you cultivate internal mastery. And no matter what life throws at you, you rise by how you respond. These are not just lessons, they are a way of life. A deeper path, a quiet strength, a monk's wisdom in a modern world. Shi Heng Yi doesn't speak to impress. He speaks to awaken, and if you've truly listened, he's already begun to change how you think. Forever.